So you do the same thing.
Yes. Oh yeah. I don't want anybody. Yeah.
Okay, so we ready?
Yep.
Missing anyone? Okay, the next session is reporting and analytics. We'll be kind of talking about standard reports, how you can manipulate them to meet your needs, developing crystal reports, dashboards, and analytics. And I believe Adam's going to start off with their analytics.
Yeah. So if you guys remember on the presentation earlier, one of the slides was Dina was talking about the communication life cycle. She had a red circle around the outside, kind of wrapped all the data, and it said Insight Analytics in it. So what you're seeing here is actually what Insight Analytics is. It's a new product for us. We've rolled it out since version 7 of Pinnacle. This is one of the big enhancements that I talked about that come out with major releases. It's a business analytics engine that is wrapping all of your data within your database and giving you some kind of different views, different methods of interacting with your data. Use it to answer questions, understand what's going on, understand where things are, what they are. So we have the product available to look at multiple areas of data of the application. So what I'm looking at here is on the service management. And again, correct me again, Dina, service in Pinnacle is equal to or like a user in MySoft?
The service number will be a user in.
User
Yes.
in. Okay. Yep. So think of it that way. Okay. So have you guys used BI tools before on campus here? Do you guys have it rolled out with other things? Okay. So it works in a very similar manner. Used to help answer some questions. So you'll see we have some kind of standard things here. We have our services broken out by where they are, the actual service count that we have over time tracking their disconnects, number pools, top inventory types, that sort of thing. Perhaps I'm interested in looking at this data, but only as it pertains to what's at a specific location. I can simply click on that location. It's on your thing, isn't it? There we go. And you'll see that the entire graphs all adjust to show us information regarding that particular location. Go ahead and remove the filter there. All of the filters work the same way. So perhaps I want to look at this page again of what's at the US Supreme Court building. But I want to leave the services overview page, which is designed to be kind of your one-stop shop, executive director level. Give me a one-page PDF what's going on in my program. So I'm interested in the US Supreme Court, but I want to see some detail behind it. So I've just paged over to our details page. And now we're looking at some details around the circuits, where they are, who owns them, what they are in regards to the US Supreme Court. So filters kind of persist themselves through the entire application here. You can also remove them from any page as well. So maybe I want to go back to get a full overview of what's going on here. There's a service detail for everything in my system here. The tool is equally powerful when it comes to things like building a story. So a story can be a collection of screenshots, a collection of pages, information out of our analytics that you may want to save, snapshot, and then add into a PDF or a PowerPoint presentation later on down the line. I'm trying to get a different system open here so that I can show you that functionality better in a system that has some more data. Bookmarks. This works the same way as any kind of saved search. So perhaps every time you want to come in, you have a specific data set that you want to look at. So you don't have to go through and set your filters up every single time you come in. You can simply create a bookmark. So when you come into the application, into analytics, you can go and you can select one of your bookmarks right here that you have set up, and it'll immediately jump you to the filtered data that you want to look at. Okay. Yeah.
Are they set ones or
per user?
Publish common ones or views or?
So a bookmark is done per user. So if you log in, you set yourself up a bookmark. The next time that you log in, that bookmark is available for you. Okay.
Kind of like,
Yes.
it's kind of like the bookmarks you use in your browsers. This is important to me.
Okay, I guess I was thinking of kind of something that views that everyone.
So we'll look at that when we get into the application itself.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yep. So this is our initial rollout of analytics. So it's version 1 of analytics sitting on top of version 7.2 of Pinnacle. This is off the shelf based on what we have built into it that comes with every implementation. So when I say off the shelf, every single customer, this page looks exactly the same with these types of graphs. So as we continue with our analytics deployments and enhancements down the road, we are going to be adding feature functionality so that our customers can actually build their own analytics in here. Because perhaps this isn't relevant to what you're doing at Emory, or all these graphs are not, relevant to you. That will be in future releases of analytics. It is not in there yet.
And this isn't the only reporting and graphics and dashboards. There's other things we'll get into that you can kind of make it your own. You can share with others. So that this is kind of something we're adding new. Exactly.
It is. So we have a different view into orders. So you guys are doing orders today. How long have my mean orders been open? Don't get alarmed by the numbers here. This is just a demo system. I don't know if we've closed any orders in here, but right. The idea is that this gives you kind of a one-page dashboard as well of what's going on within your guys' work order environment, right? Where are things sitting? What's been closed? What's open? Do you guys track any internal SLAs with your guys' customers if there's things like that? So these are the types of things that can be looked at here. Here's your top 5 circuits that have had orders submitted against them. We're looking at external vendors who might be fulfilling orders for you, that kind of thing. So same type of functionality, bookmarking, storytelling, paging. We're just looking at your data. We're looking at a different data set here with this functionality.
You said you guys integrate with ServiceNow.
We do.
So if we had all of our tickets originating from ServiceNow, could I use this dashboard to report on tickets that are closed in ServiceNow?
Yes, because ServiceNow integrates in, but bidirectionally. So if ServiceNow is the user interface that Emory wants to use to do all ticket submission and all ticket management, you submit your ticket in ServiceNow, the information gets pushed into Pinnacle. So we know the order's open on this number for this person, this cost center, whatever. And then anytime an update is posted, either from ServiceNow coming in or from Pinnacle, if that's where your technicians work going out, the information is captured in both. So this can essentially be your ServiceNow dashboard for the orders that make it into Pinnacle from ServiceNow. And we usually do that based on order type within ServiceNow. You probably have different types of orders that you can submit. We'll say, only look at telecom orders, or only look at this, everything else don't.
So define order and define service order. Are they the same?
Interchange.
Interchange. Is your service order terminology a work order in Microsoft?
Yes. So Pinnacle really has 2 different types of orders, if you will. So a work order is, I need something new, I need something changed. And an incident is, I'm having trouble with something that I already own or already have.
A service order is a work order in myself. An incident is a trouble ticket in myself.
Yeah. And if that ServiceNow ticket relates to a service that you're tracking in Pinnacle, we could certainly push those in if you had any reason to track it out of Pinnacle. Question? Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Yeah. So what's my longest current open request? Any of these are interactable here. Centrex orders. I'm using my computer again. We're doing an interesting sharing thing here. Yes.
Having trouble with his computer fitting because of security, so we've got it on top.
Yeah.
So yeah, quit working on your computer.
Yeah. So maybe I'm interested in just my Centrex orders that are out there. Here's all your information on that, or all your data circuit orders, or something like that. Yep, exportable to Excel in a standard XLSX format. And then from there, if you wanted to PDF it or whatever, you can do that right from Excel. Yep. I wish I could show you how to screenshot and build a story, but I don't have the screen capturing technology on this particular system. But I can essentially go through and if I were to hit, the little camera icon, it would section this page up into all the different graphs. And perhaps I'm only interested in this, and this. I can grab those 3 images, store them either locally in a folder on my hard drive or internally here within Insight Analytics, and then go and kind of build my story out that allows you then to add text, add any other information that you want, and then that gets exported to either a PDF. You can build a PowerPoint with it, all of that stuff. So I don't think so.
You can go in and like take what we call a lasso. Like I've got a lot going on here. Why? Circle it and bring up all the data behind it.
Yeah.
That one piece to show you why.
Actually, I think I can. So let me show you a lasso. So a lasso is done for date graphs only, excuse me. So you'll see this graph here. We're looking at multiple months here. If I were to click on this point here, everything would readjust itself to look at just October. So let's go ahead and do that. And we're saying, okay, here's my October data, but perhaps I want to look at October and November. I can lasso it, and you got a Mac here, so I don't know how to do that on here. But you could lasso 2 months or lasso 3 months. So you're not looking at either everything or 1 month. You can look at multiple months within that. Okay. So these pages are organized into what we call sheets. So you can navigate to them by simply dropping down the menu here and going to different sheets. It shows different information. Or you can use the paging arrows here. General rule of thumb, let me close this. As you page to the right, your guys right? Yeah, as you page to the right, the information gets a bit more detailed. So if you think of it, maybe the head of the help desk or the director of the help desk wants to look at getting 1 page of what's going on, but maybe your individual SMA users need some more information than just this. You can either filter down using these, or you can page over and get yourself to different information that you may need to look at.
And these are available in different parts of the system, not just the reporters.
Yep. Here's the area that we have the analytics built for in the Pinnacle product today. I think for you guys, what would be important: inventory management, order and provisioning. If you guys track revenue versus invoiced, I don't know if you guys are doing that today. Service management, and then call accounting usage management, that's done here as well.
Back on the prior screen, is it possible to drill that down to specific work groups? So like the technicians versus the is it possible to drill that?
Yeah, so let's see.
Down?
So let's go to the service orders, see what that does for us. New. All right, let's do it a different way here. So you're talking here different departments, different technicians. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, here you go. So here's your assigned technician, service orders by technician. So we can see in this particular demo setup, we have a couple of, maybe it initially lands on the help desk or lands in networking, but then we have individual technicians here as well. Yep. And then drilling into each of those would give you the information around.
Your end result there, are you looking for how the technicians will get in to see what they have to do? Okay. I just want to make sure that we were.
Yeah, from an overview, yeah. So analytics, Pinnacle is a role-based security managed application, all done through the web. So analytics is managed by tokens. So You guys buy an implementation, it comes with a set amount of tokens that are handed out to key users within your organization. Usually, managers, department heads, that sort of thing. So it's not like this functionality can go out to 500 different users within your organization. Could, but that would be 500 tokens that would be needed. I'm not sure that would be, cost feasible for anybody.
Yeah, all the other reporting is available to anyone.
Correct.
This is the only thing that's managed by tokens because, quite frankly, the license for us to provide this. So we can't just give it like 500. But again, your executive level is going to be who is most interested in this.
Yeah. So I won't spend too much more time on analytics because you guys seem familiar with it. So it's here. Can I answer any questions on the analytics portion of reporting for us?
Just kind of thinking like, I know half of it, us looking at it, trying to notice trends that we want to see, but is there anything that you guys help find trends in our data that might be useful?
Sure. So in the traditional telecom management business line, which is what you guys I think in general are looking for here, we much more play the role of software provider and implementation consultant, where you guys are kind of managing the day-to-day after implementation is done. We have other business lines where we do offer a lot more consulting, customers who do expense management with us. So we're actually receiving carrier invoices for them. We're looking at things like carrier contracts, cost overages, mobility devices that are deployed and not being used or are consistently going over their data or minutes or do pool optimization. So it is available for us to help manage some of that stuff in the space that you guys are in today. I'm not sure there's much for us to do once implementation is done. Dina, you can.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much it's, using the reporting to see how close you are to budgets and throughout the year and things like that. You can do things like that with it. Is there anything in particular that you're of
I
interest
should have asked
in?
that.
We're just starting to wanting to look at some of this data that we have this data. What do we want to start looking for?
Right.
We're not creating that now. So if you have anything available that says, hey, usually people look at this.
Yeah.
Or this is what start.
Yeah.
Like the KPIs that what are the
a lot of that came from when we first started building this, talking to other customers, what's important to you, what do you need?
Yeah. We're really providing the ability to track those metrics, but they can be configured and set per organization. Now, if you guys were to come to us and say, gee, we're interested in getting into SLA or KPIs, we have no idea where to even start. We can certainly consult with you on some of the traditional timeframes that we see, that kind of thing. But we're really only developing the reporting metric for a setting that you guys are configuring.
But kind of as an example, when we were building these, one of the customers that we were working with, we were just looking at, their call accounting, their telecom cost in June. And when they started testing it, they're, oh, this doesn't look right. Started drilling into it. They found out their conference calling bill was a whole lot more than it should have been. People were in a conference room making a call. Everybody gets up and leave. They don't disconnect the bridge. So things like that. She would have never thought to look for that, but it just kind of stood out when she saw how high her conference portion was. So that type of thing, yes, we'll provide you.
Any cable management analytics around like maybe port usage, type stuff?
Today, no. Let me go into the inventory management and see what we got. I did it again. It's very confusing. I got like the same screen on both things up here.
I need a post-it note. Don't use me. There's reporting, but I'm not sure that there's much about yet.
on ports. No, it's really around inventory that vendors are providing you. So service location, look up this.
Like I said, this is something that is continually growing. It hasn't been out that long. Enhancement requests from customers is what builds this.
Yeah.
So if you get in here and you think this would be good, that's something we can definitely put in for enhancement request, and then the programmers would come and say, okay, Tom, help me, show me what you want on here.
Yeah. So again, interactable data, you have to be logged in to do this. You have to have token for it. These are the areas today that we're kind of focusing on. It's off-the-shelf software as it is today. Into the future, much more configurable to the customer. Okay. Good. So let's go into a couple of other things to look at. So this is a reporting, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What other types of reports are used on a very frequent basis out of MySoft for you guys today? You guys sending bills out to your end customers? Are you getting reports sent to you on a weekly basis that are very important to how you run your business? Give me some. Okay. All of them. Okay.
Right. So I think very little is being used today in what was provided out of the box from MySoft.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a canned report. But if you went to our MySoft application today and went to the reports menu, they'd all be listed there, right?
Yep.
And so every once in a while, somebody pulls it and they go, this data looks terrible. And I'm like, this report's terrible. And like, why would you use this thing that's there, right? So I would say that from an end customer perspective, they have an invoice that's posted on the shopping cart, and that invoice and that format's like a crystal report, and that's what's used. But
Same technology.
It's pulled. It's not pushed today.
Yeah.
So then everything else really is a customized over years crystal report.
Okay.
Some of those exist to access through the application and are used as batch reports that are sent daily, weekly, or monthly to people. But I would say that's maybe 20%, and the other 80% are crystal reports that live on people's computers that they pull when needed.
How does an end user get their bill today?
They go to the
portal.
Yeah, they go to the portal and pull it.
You send out a notification, your bill's ready, something like that. Okay.
They just know to go. That's right. Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's one of the. Okay.
From an end user customer perspective, if a high-end user wants to drill down into their bill, they have no way through the application today to say, give me this back, right? Give me what this data looks like to build that as a one-time or an ongoing place. So they would either create a ticket and request that, or they would get really curious and find out if they could get read-only access to the database and build it themselves.
Yeah.
What about something like reconciliation? Like ports build, ports used?
Ports build, yeah, I mean, that would be, that. I don't think that's a standard out of the box report, but that's, yeah, reporting is always a really interesting topic when we're on site, because if we're capturing the data, we can report on it. So, out of the box reporting is a hard thing to kind of get a one size fits all for all the customers, because everyone wants to see something different. The more important thing is, are we capturing the data that you possibly would need in a report? And then we can build a report around that. So the real problem is making sure that we're capturing the data that you guys may need. Most, if not all, of our MySoft customers who have came over, along with folks who have joined us from other providers, Reporting is always a big part of the implementation, reviewing what you guys have today, getting you guys something reasonably close, if not exactly what you guys had before. You know, I'm assuming since you guys have had MySoft, you know, implemented for as long as you have, some of those reports probably could be refreshed or a little more visual pleasing. We still do use Crystal reports in Pinnacle as well. So though we'd be hitting some different table schemas and some different things like that, the same type of reporting technology is still available to us. So if you have a user set that says this report has to look this way, we have had customers that have said, I don't care that we're on a new system. This report has to look exactly the same as it did, and we've been able to deliver that.
And do you often have people that call you different departments or that call and, okay, I need this report. It's not something you have. You've got to kind of quickly put together something to send them. It's not something you have standard. So, oh, okay. Adam, show her interactive report. She can do her own.
Yeah. So are you interested in maybe the end user logging in who's not any kind of manager or anything? They're just logging in to look at their own information.
I'm more curious if somebody wants to create their own, not look at something that's fine for them, but something they want to be able to. A manager at a manager level. Right, or just somebody who's smart and uses the data, right? There might be an analyst.
Yeah.
Might not be somebody with that title.
So not only the Crystal reports, but the interactive reports, I think, might be helpful to do. No, it's directly on it. It's not a pretty report that you're going to send somebody. It's a down and dirty. I need this data, and I need it now. They're called interactive.
It's called interactive reporting.
Yes.
It is a query service within the application. That is a perfect way to put it.
If we have Crystal reports of 2008 variety, how easy would it be to convert those into walk through map column to column or table to table?
Yeah, that's usually what we do. So we're on it's Crystal Reports 2013 now. That's out there. So you know, depending on what you guys decided to do from a hosted versus on-premise situation, if you guys are staying with Crystal 2008, we would need to redevelop those reports in Crystal 2008. I don't. The expertise in that area is still around, but not as good. If you guys could upgrade, that would be very helpful because you know, developed in a new version pushed backwards makes it hard to get.
No, I just was curious about taking.
Yeah, that's part of the implementation. Not only part of the implementation discovery with the business consultant. This report is absolutely crucial, and it must be replicated. This report, we don't really use it all that much. I'll do some investigation internally. I'm talking as I'm an Emory employee. I'll talk around, do we really need this or not? So that's the kind of work that goes on. Or yeah, we need this, but we've been kind of suffering with a bad data set for years. We really wish it looked like this or contained this data instead. Sure.
Do you have a very specific report that could be used to pull data that would be legally usable in proving what number had called, what number type of thing?
So
sort of call data records.
Yep.
Things like that. Is there an out of box or in the box functionality that does this?
Yeah, so occasionally we have customers who do get contacted by law enforcement or you know, other legal entities regarding call detail records. We do by law keep 7 years. I believe that's how far you have to go back. Don't quote me on that. We keep more than that actually, but do we have an official form that goes into when this gets sent off for an investigation or something like that? I'm not sure. Randy, do you know? Have you come across? I think.
I'm thinking of more of an official report. Do you have a report already built?
For you guys to type in a phone number and give a list of all calls? Yes. Yes. So you can go in and
Instead of having
say,
to do interactive, like user interactive reports, you have a standard.
yeah, we do. Yeah. So it would look something like someone's being harassed at this phone number. You go into your call detail records, give me all the records for this dialed number, from whenever, and it will pull out all the CDR for you between that time period. And you can then filter that down to what information you need. Likely you're going to give a law enforcement agency way more information than they actually need. They just want the number who's been calling, right? So yes, we do have that. Okay, so interactive reporting, right? So all that I've done here is I've landed on a landing page here. We're just looking at services or user IDs in MySoft terms. Across the top, we've got a couple of different things that we can do. This page laid out in a way that just means something to me. I want to know the user ID, what it is, the switch it might live on, where it is, that kind of thing. This is configurable, and I'm using the word configuration, not customization, configurable to how the user wants to see it. And it's done on an individual user level. So Eddie might log in and say, geez, Adam's got this laid out really strange for me. I don't want to look at it that way. He has the ability to rearrange this page, have it however you want, hide things that he doesn't want to see, change the available filters that are up here. These are what work for me, possibly not for him. Always have an advanced search where you can go in and get every possible way to filter. So these are just kind of quick filters. I put them on this page so I don't have to click around. Maybe Eddie only wants the service number here and everything else hidden. Fine. Okay. Everything is always downloadable to Excel off of a list page here. So you'll see this is kind of already in a column row format. You can download it here. What I'm going to go into here is interactive report. I'm going to pull this up. And what this has given me here, and I'm not going to be able to scroll all the way over, it's every single available field that we're storing. Why is that not showing up here? It's on your screen. Yeah. Oh, you're only sharing. Mm-hmm. There we go. So on the particular page I was on, you'll see it kind of looked somewhat similar to this. This is a bit more built out. As I scroll over, you'll see there's probably about 70 columns in here that I could possibly be looking at. So I've opened up and kind of started the interactive report builder. So what do I want to do here? Well, I want to do a couple of things. I want to filter this data down because only 5 of these columns are relevant to me. I want to say if I were to print this out or send it to me via email, I only want 10 rows per page to show up, and I want it in the landscape format. To format this, I can put my own colors on it. I can rearrange columns. I can size it that way. I can save the report. Saving the report, what does it do? It saves the settings of this so that when you log in next time, you can jump right to your interactive report. You can see it. You can schedule the system when you save the report to email this to you on a scheduled basis. Once a month, I want this data set, and I want it to go to these people. Okay? We can reset it. This report's no good to me anymore. I want to reset and start over. We can download it from in here. I don't want to wait for the next time this thing gets sent out an email. I want it now. Come in and just download it and take it with me. So the user is able to configure this view of data however they would like and how they want it to work. So I know what question's coming next. Can you join this to other tables within the database so that I can put all this information together and kind of get one report out that has everything in it? Through interactive reports, no. That's when we get into the Crystal report development for you guys. Certainly not a hard thing to do, whether we develop it for you, you guys develop your own. This is looking at what we call an API view, which is how we have our data organized within Pinnacle. So we're not actually interacting with tables directly, but we have put some business rules and business logic in place to route them through database views, and that's what the UI is actually using.
So again, this isn't meant to be pretty reports. This is you know, 4:45, you've got all of a sudden you've got to get information out to somebody in a hurry. You can get it real quick without having to write a question report. Or you have someone that's calling you every week needing something. You can show them how to use it so they can do it.
Yes.
Since I made this my own personal question, can we hit this with SQL? Is there a backdoor for
Yeah.
a super user to hit this? So that we don't
Yeah.
have to structure crystal reports every time we wanted to take a look at fast look at things information.
So let me caveat that. So this is a SQL. This is an Oracle database. PL SQL Developer is what we use to interact with the data. For the technical people in the room is very familiar with that. In a on-premise environment, you can SQL that data all you'd like. You can connect right to it. You can add it right in the database. You can do all that. Hosted environment, we do not give write access away. Reason being, customers can go in, make some kind of mistake, cause some data integrity problems. Because it's hosted on our server, oftentimes that was coming back to us saying, oh, help me fix this. You know, I did something wrong, causing a lot of extra things. So we do lock down write access within a hosted environment. In general, we don't grant read access either unless specifically requested. It's done through a VPN. So there is the availability to go that route if you wanted to write queries against your data and against the views in the database through a VPN into our hosted environment. So that's, you know, if that's an important thing for you guys, and you guys not only want read but write access as well to do things that you may be doing, you know, premise is the only place you're going to get write access. It's usually done through a single VPN. Do you guys know? I mean, as long as you have the VPN credentials, you can get in. It's just one connection at a time. Because it's through one VPN. Yeah. Did I say that right? You're the tech guy. Yeah. It's on our end.
So for this interactive report, to clarify, did you say it's only one table, or is it to like views that have common joins that you might want to have?
Yeah. So think about our database in this way. We've got about 300 data tables that roll up into about 80 or so views. So when you're querying in this data, we're actually looking at those 80 views. So the reason why we did that is because of the business logic that sits in between the table and the view.
Yeah, like if you look up a piece of equipment, you probably want to know jack information on it.
Correct.
So it's like that would have both in that view.
And there is a different view for that. I'm just looking at your straight service inventory right here as far as what it is. So there's about 80 different places that you could do this same functionality right here.
You can't control what's here, but all the most used stuff is.
Correct. This will give you everything, and then you have the ability to filter it down here in that view. If you really want to straight go and say, I want to join data from this view and this view, now we're getting into querying or crystal reports or something like that. Yeah. So this is, I think Dina said it great. This is a great investigative tool for you sitting at your desk just trying to pound out an answer. You know, you owe someone something soon. This is kind of the tool that folks are using that for.
And then the next level of going to a crystal or that kind of thing, is it the same process we would go through today where literally you'd build it out of access to the database and some knowledge of how that database is set up? There's not a front end through the application to build that.
You would connect Crystal to the database through an ODBC connection, and we would provide you an ERD diagram. You know, here's all of our views,
right? And
if you guys are in a on-prem situation, here's where everything is. Have fun.
So we have more often than you would imagine occasion to change our data. So some sort of user I field that used to end with an A and a B, we want to strip the A's and the B's, or we want to whatever it is. In a hosted environment so typically the way we do that now is through a test and approve process, but basically a SQL query. So if we, so if you just let go of the fact you don't like it, if our reality involves that in the future and we're in a hosted environment, is that something we could request to be done through sort of a normal service request process?
So how something like that handled, I'm going to put my consultant hat on, I was a consultant before this, is we would create actually a brand new record and move all the information from the record that you didn't want anymore. So if you wanted to call it, if it was called 123 ABC and you wanted to just call it 123, we would create a record called 123 and move the data from ABC
Oh, wow.
up here. And the reason being is because
And then what do you do with ABC 123 or
disconnect
whatever?
it.
Okay.
Discontinue it, disconnect it so that it's not inactive.
It's inactive, so you would have the historical information.
Right. Correct.
Yes, yes.
You can still access it. So we aren't literally moving we aren't removing information from one and putting it on. We're just copying the information from one, putting it on the other, discontinuing the old one, and resuming with the new one.
And that was intentional built in the system, so you would have that in.
Yeah.
And it's and the process is to roll it over. It's very simple. Use everything over. So that way you've got a good history.
Yeah. If you think of it as a inverted triangle, everything is built off of that user I or that service. So there's so many relationships that if you just went and changed the idea of this, there's so many places it has to propagate out to that it was just the risk for data integrity problems is very high. So if you try to do that through the services view, it would tell you, nope. If you hit a table directly, it would let you change it there, but that information would never propagate out to all the other tables where that information is held, and now you've got a big problem. Yep. Nah.
So we have some exception.
Yeah, and her.
Yeah. Some of these reports that we send are just looking for exceptions. And so MySoft currently, if there's 0 results, which means everything's correct, nothing sends. So it, once a week, it tries to send this report. If there's 0 results, good, nothing sends. Do you happen to know if this is like that for either crystal reports or these interactive reports?
Yeah, so what we actually do so that people don't think that there's a problem is we can actually pre-configure the system to say, if nothing returns, just send out a report that says no data this week. Yeah, no data set. So that people don't think, hey, I didn't get a report this week. Flood your help desk, flood someone's thing. They at least get something every week at the time they're supposed to get it, even if it has no data. It just says nothing. Right. We can also actually personalize our messages too that come out. I think MySoft can as well. So instead of saying it's hey Dina, here's this week's billing report, or hi Dina, this week's report for whatever contained no data. We'll talk to you again next week. Something like that.
Did you guys already talk about report batches, delivery? Ask
No.
about that?
No.
So kind of going back to samesies, trying to integrate from what we have to what we have in the future, right? It solicits a lot of our reports are created as report batches in MySoft, and we deliver them. The system automatically sends them every so often. Does Pinnacle have that ability to batch and send reports?
Yep, same type of functionality.
Yeah, you can set up, I want to send this every day at noon, or I want to send this every Thursday at 2:45.
And format is different too. Some folks like to receive an actual PDF or an Excel spreadsheet. Others want a URL to say, go here and view your report. That can be set up based on the individual user preferences as well. So it's not at the report level, it's at the user level. Send a PDF to these folks, send a URL to these folks, but they're all getting the same report. Sure.
Have the ability to take those automated batches that have gone out, and if an error occurs, the report's not delivered, is there a way to notify those system admins or someone that they did not get that report?
So if an error occurs,
So there's process logs in MySoft.
yep.
Is there a way we can go back in there and search that to see what the error message or the type of error?
Yep, I'd be able to tell you if it got rejected at your guys' mail server back to the software. If the problem happens somewhere between the mail server and the end user, we don't.
I would think more about if the report didn't run. So if
Yes.
something didn't
Oh, yeah.
happen,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
like
yeah.
the report didn't run,
Yeah.
and or the possibility that it's not deliverable.
Yes.
Would I get a notification that that's back?
Yes. Yes. If there was an error on a report, not only is it always available in the log to see, but the system can be configured. Anytime you see a level 2 error or a level 1 error or something, notify this person, this group of people, so that you guys are, it's so reactive, but it's not 2 days reactive. It's immediately reactive. Yeah.
We haven't really looked at your shopping cart or like the customer center side of it, but is there like a separate reporting that we can make available to not any sort of power users, just people that look at their bills, but maybe also want to know like, hey, what are all the phone numbers considered in my department? Like some of our very basic customer reports.
Yeah. Hang on one second. Can I minimize this, Steve? Or?
What is it on the?
I was just going to minimize that so I could pull the screen up. What did I do? Yep. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Sure. So I'm not pulling any sleight of hand here, guys. I'm just logging in as a different user who has different user permissions. Okay. Yeah.
So in Pinnacle, similar to in Microsoft, you can assign what we call roles. Each role says you can access these screens and you can do this once you're in these screens. Right. And you could be assigned multiple roles. So yeah, that's what he's doing. He's signing in as a different user to get different roles.
Yeah. It's just a completely different user.
Yeah.
So I'm literally just think of me as someone else now who's just logged in. So
but like you might be assigned to 5 different roles. Jason might be assigned to 8. You know, that little
this up here.
You click down and it shows all the different roles you were assigned to.
Right.
So that once you get in, you don't have to sign in for every role. You just change.
So if you recall what this menu looked like before, my other user, it was full because I was logged in with full system admin access. I can do everything. This guy, he's using what we call the customer role. Don't get hung up on that name. We can name it whatever you want. We also have the ability to customize roles. So we come off configure roles. That's the better term. So we come off the shelf with about 20 or so different roles which guide what you can view, what you can do, that sort of thing. Those 2 were developed based off of customer feedback that we've gotten over the years. I think we started with about 5 general roles, and then over the years we've just added more and more because the customer said this is way too general, showing too much, or this is too granular, etc. We also have the ability to combine features from multiple roles into one new role, so we can call it Emory user or Emory end user, something like that, and put a bunch of functionality together into your own role if you guys needed to. So, oh, sorry. I'm done.
Okay. I'm going to branch off from user roles real quick. And do you integrate into confederated systems like Shibboleth
Yep.
or anything like that?
Yep.
So for both your on-premise and
Yeah.
hosted? Okay.
Yep.
And then how do we manage the user roles? Is that through groups that we manage in our Active Directory or in our, or is that inside the system?
It's done inside the system.
Okay.
But we've also integrated with Active Directory before as well. Now, Active Directory, the roles in Active Directory sometimes are not as granular as what we have here. So as we go through implementation, we usually work through, here's who should be able to do what, and from that, we kind of set the roles up there. We also give you guys a guide on kind of user roles, so someone new starts at Emory. Well, they need the same access that Steve has. Okay, let's go ahead and check out what Steve has, and let's just make this new user and give them the same thing. So most of it's done through implementation. It's done right through our system. We do have some customers who keep an external kind of access database to all of their infrastructure on campus, and whenever they deploy something new, we integrate with it and we say, oh, Pinnacle's a new application. Here's all the possible roles that could be in there. here's the new employee and here's what I want to assign them. We just grab a feed once a week. Add new users. We also use that to deactivate users. So it's kind of done that way.
Okay, completely changing the subject back to something Molly had said.
Yep.
Talked about earlier. She was talking about updating information in the database.
Yep.
Another thing that we do a lot of, and if you're planning on talking about this maybe on another day, that's fine. We can talk about it then. But importing a lot of times we'll have a whole building that's being built or refurbished. So we want to turn off everything that's in a specific closet, redo it, and then import everything that's in that closet.
Yep.
So is there some type of functionality inside of that, or are you going to talk about during the inventory section, or is that something to talk about now?
I mean, we can talk about it now. It wasn't
Today? Okay.
Oh, good. Well, we're
Okay.
already there.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm going to touch back on this too. Whoever asked the individual, it was you, right? Yeah. So I'm going to go back to this here. But yes, so a couple of ways to do that. So we have the ability to use work orders, which is usually when you're doing a, kind of one by one kind of turn on. We have a bulk edit functionality. So you can, through the UI, use the bulk editor and make the same exact change to all of the items that you are going to bulk edit. So that's kind of how that works. And then 3, we can use imports. So if we want to disconnect a whole bunch of things in this example, probably a bulk edit at that point because we're doing the same thing for everything. But when we want to re-add new things, they're going to all have kind of different information on them. At that point, we probably want to use an import because the import allows you the ability to, though you're hitting the same table with that import, you're putting different pieces of information on different lines and different things. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay. We have a set of 275 standard imports that the Pinnacle project comes with. Also comes, with instructions on what they are, what they do, what the formats are. We do have the ability to build a configured custom import for you. Usually what those are for our customers are that they're trying to do something that normally with off-the-box software would take them 3 imports to do that they want to do it in 1. So the imports cover all of the data that you want to get to. Sometimes we just combine multiple import steps down to 1 for our customers who are looking for ease of use. Walk through this or walk through an import?
Yeah, but just before you leave as a customer, can you show like the reports?
Yeah.
Here?
Yeah.
But then they have.
Yeah, let me go through this here. So I'm logged in as an end user here at Emory. You can see this is what my availability of things to do. Important thing to remember, this data that this end user is supposed to see is only his or her data. So they're not looking at data from others. They're not looking at anything else but what they have. We have the ability to set up data filtering and data access as well. So perhaps, you are this person's manager. Well, when you logged in, you might see something similar, but your information would be for everybody who you're a manager of and up the hierarchy level as such. Okay? So here's your end user. And you can go in, you can see there's a whole bunch of things that I can do here. So I just want an overview of my account and what's going on. Go ahead and click in that. And you'll see I'll get just some general information. Al Gore, here's my employee ID. I have a current balance that's due out there. My last statement came on August 31st, this kind of information here. I can go through unbilled usage. So if I have stuff that's being tracked in here that hasn't hit a bill yet, I can understand when my bill comes, I've already had some visibility into what's going to be on this month's bill. I'll look at my current status. So again, very similar to the first page. No, it's not. Let's skip over that. Let's go to my statements. So here's all my historical statements for my devices that have come up. For all the months, current charges. Al hasn't paid his bill in a very long time. You see, we're just kind of continuing to accrue here. With the ability in the system too to notify when past due balances get to certain points, with the ability to suspend service from an informational tracking point, of course, and do all kinds of things there. don't know if that's an issue for you guys there. If I'm interested in perhaps this past month's bill, I can always drill in and I can get the breakdown of the bill, and I can drill in even further and get the breakdown of just what's going on my bill itself. Here it is. I'm not going to hit that because it's going to generate a PDF. It might take a little bit of time to generate here. If they wanted to download the information, or they can receive a reminder to say, hey, log in, or right, they can always kind of come here. Let's see. Again, the bill doesn't have to look this way. This is just this crystal report. It can look however you want it to, but this is just the idea of a very simple, what the invoice number is, what it is, and what they would get each month. It can look however you want it to.
Molly Cox, which was saying earlier about wanting to drill down. If I click on those, I can drill down and see the details. If they had usage charges, it would go all the way down to seeing every single column.
Right. So, here's all his user eyes that he owns here. If he wants information on those, you can always drill into each. And I'll get into this when we get into service inventory, I believe, tomorrow. But you see we're tracking all kinds of different things. I'll expand all of those tomorrow when I get in there. But this is what the user with the off-the-shelf role is able to do in the system. Again, if this is too much for them, if you want them to have more or less, we can always configure that for you. They have a view into the incidents that they've reported, the work orders that they've submitted, and they can drill into all of these and get information on what's going on.
If we write a crystal report, can we give them access to a crystal report on this page?
Drop it on this page. We would probably email the crystal report to them. We don't really put links to crystal reports on pages unless you guys house your crystal reports on a separate server somewhere.
For our shopping cart, we have, I think it's just 2 reports, like show me all devices in this department or something like that. But it's just when anyone in that has access to the shopping cart signs in, they're available to them. Oh, right. But yes. So Celeste is correct. You also have to have an extra level of like financial access to get access to invoices. But I think the reports, just generic, those are as well. Okay.
Great.
Assuming they had access to that, they had the correct access to get into the shopping cart and view financial reports. Can we put, like, right now they can get a PDF of their invoice. Can they also get a PDF based on, we also want to run on this one crystal?
Yes.
Okay, so let's do it.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Tomorrow afternoon is part of the work order session, shopping cart.
Yeah. So as you can see, I have this end user configured to be able to open up an order on his or her own behalf to request something new. Again, you don't have to use that, but this would then, they could go through, fill out what they needed, and this would then get into an approval queue off to a help desk, however your guys' workflow is modeled here internally. But they can do some self-management for themselves as well, not always have to, email a help desk if that's how you guys do it here. I don't know. But, yeah, so this is kind of, again, the off-the-shelf. I'm just an end user. I want to see what's going on, what I can do here. We can add or hide anything you see here.
Okay, so then in the session we're supposed to be in now, the integration, the integrating with ServiceNow, PeopleSoft, and HR, and then 911.
Okay. We talk about HR, PeopleSoft, ServiceNow, and then we'll get into E911. Okay. HR. What are you guys using HR data for today in MySoft?
I guess we get it through a Emory shared, like a shared data middle step, but it's essentially for very basic department info and name, stuff like that. And that drives access. Sets up new users for access. And then
With roles as well, or just a general open access?
just the very basic level of roles.
Okay.
And anything beyond like shopping cart access, we handle just through ticket.
Yep.
And then at the end of the month, we send it to the financial system, just a flat file of all the charges. That's more basically to send it to us. To the
Okay. So that's HR and then financial systems. So let me just start with HR.
Yeah,
then.
I don't think we send anything to HR. We just
Yep. So or HR is sharing information with you either through an SFTP server or what's the shared data? Okay. Yeah, sure. Sure. Okay. So very common thing that we see as well. We kind of talk you through. There's not a great demo about how data is shared with HR. So let me just kind of talk through it. So we usually do something very similar. So we get HR data, maybe an Active Directory dump or whatever you guys use here, to manage the users within the system here. So I assume the entire Emory campus is not going to need access to Pinnacle, do they? Students, everything?
not students, but I think student employees. So basically all employees.
Okay. Is there a designation within your guys' HR system that someone is an employee so they would know how to parse out?
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah. Okay. So we've done this on a couple of ways. I've implemented it a few different ways, and I'm going to tell you the easiest way that I've seen it. If every employee or student employee needs access, and your guys' HR system is the master record of when new employees start or when employees get terminated, what we generally do is we'll start with a list of users who have access to Pinnacle on your guys' campus. And this is whether it's SSO or whether it's standard authentication, doesn't matter. And then on some kind of periodic basis, whether it's weekly, monthly, I'm not sure how often you guys want to keep it in, we just take a new feed from your HR that says either employee active, employee terminated. I'm not sure if you guys keep employees that are no longer here. Do you guys do that? Are they kept in the system with a different status, or are they just gone? Okay. So at that case, we can just key off of the status that comes off of that HR file. So we would work with the HR team, tell them what's everything that's available, and work with them to say, well, we only need 4 things off of this. So can you send us a file with this 4 pieces of information? We then exchange it with Pinnacle, load it in, and based on that, employee terminated, whatever the status is, we can activate and deactivate users within the system. Okay. Yeah, we can. So we would add a designation field onto the actual personnel record, and just say this is a university employee, this is a hospital employee. So we can do it that way. So the simple part is turning off users that now have a inactive status in your HR system that is active here. A new user coming in the way you guys are doing it today, is saying they're just getting general access, but it's not really doing any role kind of assignment or anything like that. So I've seen this done a couple ways too. For customers who want to kind of handle the roles separately, any new user that gets created, we can default them to a role of change me or needs to be assigned or something like that, so that you guys know, hey, a new user got created. I'm getting some kind of report that's showing me all these new users that has to be set up with the roles that they need in Pinnacle. Else, we see other systems that are more external to HR that are actually tracking, like we talked about earlier, all of the IT programs on campus and all of the roles that the user should have within each individual application. I don't think that this is as complex here, so we could do something like that. We could just assign every new user a standard role that comes out of the box that you're comfortable with, and you can add as necessary.
Yeah, it sounds like you'd be able to, like, we might have to look at exactly what we do and exactly, but it sounds like we can get something that would map.
You could. For organizations that don't keep historical records of employees that are no longer with them, we've set up a process where we just take a file from them, and before we import it, every user in the system gets deactivated, and we only activate the users that are on this latest file. So that's kind of how we control who can get in and who can get out.
What about the inn and the conference center? Do you just provide them services, or are they and rate employees, or do you still do that for them?
They don't have access. We send them a feed of phone numbers and charges.
Okay.
Okay.
We mark up the
Okay.
bill.
So they request a sponsored account, they are not an employee. So if they need access to some of the food to our shopping cart, we create a sponsored account.
Okay. We can. So are you going in and manually removing access to folks then when you get that file? Okay. What we
They don't use shibboleth now.
Okay.
We tried to do it, but it wouldn't work. Yes. It's one of my requirements.
Yeah. So yeah, we could help automate that if you're interested in that, and just kind of walk through how that could work. If they can't get into Shibboleth, they can't get into the system anyway. But now you have a list of all these active users who really are no longer with the university, and data could just get messy. So we could certainly help with that if you guys would like. Okay, financial billing data. We usually do this via a file exchange as well because it's transactional. Tell me about the time period and how often you guys are kind of exchanging financial data today. Once per month? Once a week? Once a month. Okay. And that is for the previous month of incurred charges, the month before that?
Oh, actually, I should say there's two ways. There's two ways that we do it. One is the majority of everything, which is to our PeopleSoft system.
Yep.
That's once a month. But then we are sending every 5 minutes to the hotel and conference center any bills, any charges that they have for phone calls. So that's going through a Hobic connection, and we send it every 5 minutes.
Ah, I see, because they have to bill their guests before they check out.
Yes. So there are two ways we do it. One's through a Hobic connection. It's a TCP/IP. They listen to a specific port on their server. We send us to that server to that port. Just a stream of Hobic data. It's text over IP.
Is it CDR data that you're then upcharging?
It's yes.
Okay.
So we get the CDR data from the PBX. Rate it through our system, and every 5 minutes we send the data to them.
Okay. So both are available to be done? Yeah. So
I don't recall. I think so.
So how do you know how is there a way to distinguish in and hotel data versus rest of the data if it's coming from the same switch?
No, they're separate.
Oh, it's a different switch. Okay. Perfect. Perfect.
The customized solution that Calero wrote for us, I think is based on not personally on the switch, based on
Okay. No longer has to be customized. So we can write rating routines. We can deal with multiple switches to set up a switch site. So however we needed to distinguish this data set is part of this every 5 minute. Now, does that data get excluded from the general month-end billing then? Because it's already billed separately, or does that get included in the full month-end billing that you guys run?
I believe it's separate. Do you know? Is that okay? If they have it international. So.
Okay.
Well, no, but the hotels, they bill for local calls. Mm. Okay. They bill their customers.
Right, so I would think of what the Hobbit that you built for the conference center as a service we provide.
Okay, fair enough.
That they use for billing,
Okay.
but our billing
Yep,
is
yep.
all wrapped into
Yep.
one.
So when you guys run your month-end process, the hotel data as well as everything else has to be included in one file, and then you guys will handle the billing of.
Right. So we
Gotcha.
we have a pervasive script that
Yep.
runs.
Yep.
That pulls every 5 minutes.
Yep.
And then it sends it to a custom application that I wrote to their TCP/IP port. So
Okay.
it just pulls that flat text data and sends a TCP/IP to their listening port.
Gotcha.
Then it goes into their system and they bill.
Gotcha. Does that technology have to stay in place the way that it is today?
I don't think so, but we're open to options. So do you have a way of sending Hobic data over TCP/IP? It is a standard.
Let's take that back. I've never heard this one before. So
Okay.
let me.
I have a documentation on it.
Okay. Yeah. This. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
The utility that I wrote just takes a flat text file and sends it over. So we could potentially continue, but I'd rather not use something that I wrote.
Yep.
Going forward, because no one else knows it.
Okay.
So is a call costed from Microsoft support?
Yes.
So they aren't costing it. It's just it sends over costed.
It sends over what they told us they want to bill for that call.
Okay. You mean they're paying nothing for local calls, but I'm paying for it as a guest at the hotel? Yeah, right.
I think it's like $3 a minute.
Yeah, that's right. I'll just make my call 2 minutes before I check out, so they don't show up on the next 5 minutes. Yeah. Okay. So integration with your financial system, getting the billing data into the financial system that you guys have here. We will send over the same formatted file as it sits today with the new system. So I know getting a financial system to change what they're accepting, they're used to what they accept today. That can stay the same. We're going to send the same format out of our system into it. Just out of curiosity, what is it today? There's just a CSV text file, ASCII, you know? Yep. A fixed length file. Right. Yep. We'll look at what you have and we'll just recreate it out of here. You know, billing is an interesting piece. Is that's one of the biggest UAT, user acceptance test subjects when we're kind of migrating from one system to another. You mentioned running in parallel earlier. That's really the main thing that is checked. Is does the bill that comes out of the new system relatively match the bill that comes out of the old system? We'll get into that when we get into billing a little bit more. I mean, what are your guys' expectations on that? Just so I'm ready for the call tomorrow. Are we like down to the penny, or are we? Oh boy. Okay. Okay. We've done it. I'm just, some organizations say, well, we don't have a lot of trust in it anyway, so get it within 3 to 5% and we're fine. Others want exactly that. So, okay. So anyway, we will integrate there in the same fashion that we do here. Is it just an FTP server handoff? Is that kind of post and they pull? Is someone emailing a file? And pull. Same thing. Okay. ServiceNow we talked a little bit about earlier. I'll just touch on it again. We usually do that through standard API. We do have the ability to also file exchange as well there. API makes sense in that format and that type of relationship. We have standard APIs that are posted that we've developed. ServiceNow also has them. what we would need for something like that. We have ServiceNow staff who knows our end of it. We would need someone who understands the ServiceNow within Emory and knows your guys' side of it to get the two systems talking to each other. That's kind of what the exercise looks like there, field mapping, that sort of thing. But we have many users who are interested in the same thing. ServiceNow is their front end, campus-wide. Every order starts and ends in ServiceNow. We're just kind of in the middle capturing everything we need to capture along the way. And your inventory, your orders, your billing all gets updated as such without anybody having to log into Pinnacle if they want to manage their orders.
Can you expand on that a little more? Like,
sure.
If somebody wants to order a phone, and this might be, we have to think about how we want to process it as well, but if somebody wants to order a phone, I know some areas would love to just have everything stay in ServiceNow, but how does the money side of it kind of happen if it's approval and or
Yep.
I don't know, just identifying this is how much it costs up front, this is how much it's reoccurring.
Yep.
How, if it was through ServiceNow, how is that?
So something to think about, because I know we're going to talk about work orders tomorrow. So this is going to be a big kind of delimiter. Are we going to use ServiceNow or another tool to integrate, or are we going to use the Pinnacle front end to manage?
Which is, I think,
if you guys don't know today, that's fine.
Yeah, let's see what you got, and then we'll see.
Right,
but
that's fine. So let me tell you about how that works. So the actual telecom or communications catalog lives in Pinnacle. That's where all of the pricing, all of the available service, all of the available inventory, that kind of thing comes from. So when you initiate an order from ServiceNow, it picks up the pricing, it picks up the availability, it picks up all of that from the catalog that you have built within Pinnacle. So if you're ordering an iPhone 8 for someone on the wireless side, or let's use a wireline phone, some Nortel desktop, as soon as you put the model and what you're trying to do of that within ServiceNow, it knows when the order gets created in Pinnacle, oh, they're trying to order a Nortel, here's the cost, here's the one-time charge, here's all of this, so that it keeps in sync with billing. We'll feed that back to ServiceNow if that's the front end that the user uses. Now they know from the update that we've just pushed back, hey, I requested this, here's what's going to get incurred on my cost center based on the request I have.
Okay, so you have to set the API up so that it can do that.
Correct. We can also manage approvals here or in ServiceNow. It doesn't matter. So
have you had other customers that have just had to make something in ServiceNow, develop like a shopping cart essentially in ServiceNow?
Most of our customers do all of their communications management through our database and use ServiceNow as the front end only. So, end user, IT help desk, we're pushing back the information that your team needs to complete an order, but all of your inventory and everything in here is getting updated as such. And we're setting all the pricing in here. We're doing all the task routing in here. So we tell ServiceNow, person one is done with their task. If this is a multi-step order, now notify person two it's their task. So we can push it all back. All we essentially need from ServiceNow is the initial request in with a couple of key, identifiers of what's trying to be done. And then based on those identifiers, we dip into our catalog and our offering and manage it that way.
So could the GL approval come from either place? Is that what you're also saying? So
Either, yeah.
That could be maintained in Pinnacle and pushed back to ServiceNow
for
to
that
be approved,
for that
or
order
it could
type.
be built out in ServiceNow, approved, and the data come across.
Either. Randy's got a.
What's SideQuest company? No, it is SideQuest, and Emory Express is our name for it. Have you had integrations with SideQuest before? It's like a purchasing system.
I don't recall the name SideQuest, but here's my answer to that whenever I get any system have you integrated with. If they have APIs, we can do it. It's just a matter of their expert who knows that side of it, talking to our experts who know our side and getting them. So API integration is just kind of a standard industry thing. Randy's an expert?
Hardly. I just wanted to give you some advice just from other experiences with ServiceNow. Where I've seen customers really not be disappointed with us, but more in general, is the price tag for rebuilding what we do in ServiceNow gets very pricey. So it's usually a better idea to use its base functionality and then continue to lever the tool. That seems to be the balance of how to get the most bang for your buck, give your end user the most common experience, but leverage the back end power of it. So just offering that, having seen a number of these, things get bounced around at the end of the day.
You knew I'd have a question.
Of course.
I can saw it on your face.
Mhm.
How would you compare your shopping cart to my shopping cart? I know we're kind of ahead of the course, but we're talking about the service now compared to the Pinnacle shopping cart. How close does it come to being able to build out like we've been able to do with my stuff?
The shopping cart you have myself is nothing like myself shopping cart. As with Blue Daniels, you customize greatly. So I would use the standard myself shopping cart very much. But I know that she's done a lot. So I hesitate to say that. That's just
Okay. And I was just curious. So it sounds like the mouse is wet.
Yeah.
similar.
Yeah.
And I say that in newer work that right, but I mean it's wet.
Yeah, that's what I exactly wanted to hear. That it's new and
Yeah, after I say this,
I have a unique case. We're using Microsoft today to order VMs for our division. I'm running on this is someone can order a Windows server or a Linux server, and then besides having to punch out that, there's some subcategories, how much memory, how much storage. So it's more dynamic and not necessarily more options.
Yeah.
Build the cost as we go.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping you're, if you're to do something on your shopping cart that's much more dynamic. Right now, what we have today, and I don't know if that's just a limitation in the product, is very ugly because they have base server memory storage as kind of different line items in Microsoft. You get prompted for a screen for everything that you select. It's just ugly. So have a much. I know we're gonna go into shopping carts tomorrow. Yeah.
Let me pull something up here real quick though to show you there. Go ahead, Dina, while I'm getting this up. Yeah. Yeah.
And that after you do this, maybe talk a little bit about integration into AWS, Amazon stuff, because we're looking big time to do that. We had some automated processes already in place to automatically build stuff out. So if we can integrate that into billing, so billing because of how AWS does their billing, they build per time how much you actually use on their systems. So if there's a way to feed that data into the system, that would be helpful.
So I just want to give you a visual example of kind of what a catalog could look like. Again, this is just a demo system here. You can see I've got this system configured to potentially externally order from my external vendors to get some external services in, or inside stuff, internal things to deploy. So, visually wise, maybe someone needs a phone. I did it again. We can go in and you can see now we have kind of all these different types of things that you could deploy along with some kind of hot, things here. Oh, this one is free, but it's $89.99 a month. Here's some accessories that you could order. So when you place an order, you don't have to just pick one thing and then that's your order. I could add multiple things to an order. So if I have a million accessories here, I want this phone and I want a headset and I want this and this and this and this, you can add multiple things into it. So you can have catalogs set up, and this is with ServiceNow as well, that certain people can only request certain things. So the IT department can request anything. If someone's logging in from finance, they have a limited set of things that they can order from us, that kind of thing. So I think it's a bit more visually pleasing. Let's go ahead and go in here. So when the order is being placed, again, this is the type of information that gets fed back up to ServiceNow, so the user knows who's ordering it. Hey, this is going to be a $149 charge when this gets delivered and $950 a month. Are you sure you want to do this? So we're kind of notifying them along the way here. So these are the types of things that we can set you up for. Again, it doesn't have to look like this, but this is just a fake kind of catalog that we've created.
So like on a desktop example, you would have all the different features associated.
Correct. Yeah. So kind of here's your personal computing example here. I'm kind of going to a different system. You know, this particular customer is managing laptops, desktops. This is kind of how you would deploy that sort of thing. And then within it, if you wanted to have a sub catalog to add options to it that would just increase the price that ties in here, you can sort of do that. Correct.
So if they had 3 servers on an order, it would lay it out each one. Those would relate back to the server.
Correct. Correct. I mean, all the VMs and different devices out there are all asset tagged. So that's kind of how we tie what's belonging to each. So this asset tag is here, and this has 20 things. This asset tag device has 10, and that's how the billing is kind of managed.
So we're actually at the end of our time. So let's get into the 911 in a second there.
Yep. So I can show you a little bit about 911 in here. So 911 is really, oh, go ahead.
So you're sending your 911 data through Intrado, is that correct?
Yeah. Right. So this is a standard that comes out of Pinnacle. We call it a NINA feed or NINA record. It hooks into a PSAP somewhere, right? So we don't really configure this or change this because it's just an industry standard. Interestingly, I think had a customer recently that wanted to change it, and we had to go through a whole legal thing with it about, no, we're not doing it because we didn't want to take on the liability if something happens, right? So it's based on locations. I'm not sure to what detail you guys track locations here at Emory. Pinnacle tracks building, floor, room, jack. You can have multiple services on the same jack as well. So that's kind of the hierarchy of locations there. If you don't want to call them that, if you don't want to use all of them, you don't have to. What do you guys use here? Building room, building floor, building?
So yeah, so it's interesting that you're talking about something that wasn't E911. I'm like, that's exactly what we do.
Right.
But for E911, right now I was in the file for our Oxford campus. So again, I think we have a custom feed built this out of the formats. Same, but we're only looking for certain defects.
Yeah.
So it's full records that have
Okay.
changed since the last time it ran with a 77074.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. So the idea is that, you know, if you're doing CDR, if you're tracking service inventory, where calls are coming from, where phones live, when a 911 call comes in based on the location tied to that, you know, usually building is minimal for them. They'd like at least building floor usually, but we can do building floor room jack if you guys are down to that level. And I see cabling management as one of the sessions, so I'm assuming in some cases you are down to the jack. So
yes, anytime anything changes, it keeps track of that feed, and then it can automatically send it to Entrado.
Yeah.
Daily, hourly, whatever, however.
Okay. Yep. And this is an automated feed right out once a month. How often you guys do it? Once a week?
Once it's set up.
It just runs.
Do you handle anything if Intrado bumps it back out? Because that right now, the manual part of it is on the Intrado side. So we get to feed out of our system right now, out of MySoft, upload the file, and then they kick out an error file, and then we have to mitigate that. Is there a way to feed the error file back into the system to help mitigate it? Or?
So you're uploading a file. They're not retrieving one from you.
We are. We have to upload it.
Okay, because I'm used to the retrieval where if there was an error, they let us know.
Yeah, if they offer it, we'd love for them to pull the file from us as opposed to us.
Yeah. So what I'm used to, honestly, is kind of the same thing that we've talked about with all the other exchanges. We give them, here's where our MENA file is going to be once per month. You can go get it. And then if they have a problem with it, they post a file back in there that we sweep for.
Right.
I had a problem, or if we see nothing, we're good.
We can definitely look into changing how we're doing it with them. We actually had to track down, calling different companies. Okay, where is this? How do we fix this problem? And finally got to the right people.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're uploading, how do you find out today if there's an issue? You just try and upload it and it splashes.
We upload it, and then we wait for I don't know how many minutes, minute or two, and then an error file shows up.
So, is there a reason why you go for Entrado and not directly to?
I have no idea. I don't know why we would go through, why we're doing it the way we're doing it.
Like you said, we had to call. Are you our service? Are you our service? Like we didn't like no idea.
We've always done it this way. I love that answer. We hear it all the time. That's all.
Right. Right. And they don't do it for the Emory proper campus. For our Oxford campus, which is 40 miles from here, that's where we do it. And I think it's something, I don't know why. And then the person left 7 years ago, and 2 years of not uploading the file, and then it was everything. People were complaining because when they did dial 911, they were showing up in the wrong place, and then and so then we had to track down. Okay, where do we need to be sending this information, and how do we automate it?
Yeah.
So this might be one of those things that's really good to put on the list for the business consultant.
Yeah.
How do we do this better?
Why are you doing
Yeah.
it this way? Does it? If it needs to keep going this way, fine. If it doesn't, let's look at a better alternative.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we can do it either way. We can do it through them or directly.
This also protects you guys too, getting this implemented correctly. Something happens and can't. So, yeah. So is that day one?
Yes.
Well, I really want to look at it. I don't know. We want to push it till tomorrow. Figure out a little time back.
Yeah, I can go into the import screen here.
Do you does everybody want to keep looking at today, or do you need to do other things and we can do it tomorrow? Or
I'm okay.
okay, I just don't want to mess anyone up.
Yeah.
I'm interested in if other people want to.
Okay. So the first thing I did here is I actually navigated to a role, out of the box role called Power User. So based on its name, you can tell it's not a role that gets handed out, to a lot of people. So we put our imports in there because we don't want folks just willy-nilly importing things into the system. If you're going to hand this role out, make sure it's to trusted folks who can do data imports, etc. So power user role is really kind of where you do a lot of the system configuration, where you set up what field names are going to be, who can do what, security, that kind of stuff. So kind of an admin type level. So let me go into the import section here and let me show you how this kind of works. So I'm going to walk through this backwards, okay? Because that's the way to do it. Come on. And I'll just open up one of these. See if I have a custom line here that I can change things. I guess it doesn't matter. So let's just pick one. I don't know. Let's just do buildings. Yeah, I see that actually. I don't know what that. I don't know who made that. Let me just look at that. So what's an import type profile? Right. So this is essentially, what am I doing? I'm gonna be importing buildings here. This is an out-of-the-box import that kind of comes with the system, so you wouldn't have to create this. But you see some things here and what it will allow it to do. So what is it? Well, here's kind of what it does. What schema of the database is it in? What view? You'll see this will mean more to you when I give the ERD diagram if you guys want to go forward. What's it allowed to do? So we can create our imports to do one of three things: insert, update, or insert and update. You guys understand what those three things mean? Okay, good. And then the update key, building code. So what does that mean? This is the primary key on this invoice. This is what we identify on this import. This is what we identify all the buildings by. This has to be unique. So it can either be an internal database set building code, if you guys don't want to set one yourself, or if you guys have your own building codes, which are numbers, you can use them as well. If building name is all that's important to you, the building code just gets set automatically by the database, starting at 1 and counting its way up. Okay? So here's where we've kind of set this import up to say, hey, when I tell the system that I'm going to run a buildings import, here's where the information is going to be within my CSV file that I'm going to upload. So this is just kind of your column layout here, what they are. You'll see here the data types that they are. So an import type profile is essential before you can make an import file set definition, which will look very similar to this, but the file set will tell you the type of data that's allowed, if it's a required field, the field length, that sort of thing. So here's my import type profile for buildings. I can always export this if I don't want to have to log back into the system to see, geez, what column is that in? I can put this on my office wall if I'm going to be doing this a lot, so I know how to build these files. So an import type maps to an import file format. So let's find the file format for buildings. Sorry guys, I don't know why this part of the system is being so late and it's been performing well. There we go. So there it is. So this page also tells you not only what field it goes in, gives you some raw value examples. That's important where the import is expecting a yes, which will translate to a 1 when it gets into the database. Oracle uses 1 and 0 for yes and no, but you can use Y and N here. So this is essentially telling you what you put in the file, what it would look like when it gets into the database. Okay.
This where it kind of shows like how to find like error checking, not only error if longer than 2 characters, but what if error if it's numerical?
Yeah. So that's where it was set. I mean, it's set here, so a string. So it's thinking of a 2-character string here. That's fine. A string can be alpha or numeric, but here it's saying number. So it's telling me rounded to 6 digits, but it would also error out if you tried to put alpha characters in a number field.
And so that's the easy check. The other check is what if it needs to check against a database field? Like it's this type of equipment, you have to use one of these item types or something like that.
Yeah, so now we're getting into more of the configured import rules there. So, if I were to say one thing about Pinnacle that I don't like, it's the error messaging that we give when imports error out. So things like this, very easy to code for, we understand. When we start setting up, relational data that have to error out, the system will tell you that there was a problem with a particular line number record in your file. So you know where in your file you had a problem. But because we've kind of configured a special rule, the system doesn't know why it errored. It just knows something got violated here, error on line 17, and you got to kind of go and figure out what happened. So
we kind of have a mix, both imports that some are like our user I import is simple, like it's just adding one field to a table with maybe some other extra stuff. Some of our other imports, closets, is going to be the big one here, have pages and pages of codes to just check and validate stuff.
Yep.
And again, with errors, like on the closet import, I think we have really good error messaging. There's so many possible errors, whereas others, it's wireless for AP refresh. It's like we did different methods, so some are better than others.
Yep. You're going to run into the
better.
same type of thing here, I think. So I think from an import functionality perspective, I think you're going to notice very similar to what you got today. Let me show you one other thing, how easy it is to create a custom import or configured import if you guys needed to.
Yeah.
So again, remember what I mentioned earlier, you literally can't create an import that is touching a field outside of what one of these imports touches. So when you create a quote custom import, what we're doing is we're really kind of combining 2 or 3 imports that would have to be run individually together into one. So that's where you get that kind of relational data and sequencing. And I'll show you what that means here. So I'm just going to create a custom import here. And
if you want to, the big one we use, closets, is basically equipment and jacks and locations, kind of like all in one. So if you want to use that as
okay.
for example.
So let's see if we can get something close here. All right, so it's a custom import type. So in this case, we're doing multiple, right? Because we're not really hitting an individual view or an individual area. We're going to really combine multiple into one. So that's what we select here. Right? So we'll do multiple. Okay, what do we want? Do we want a heterogeneous file, different formats? That's really complicated. I do not recommend trying to do that. Homogeneous is literally usually what we see. We can do delimited or fixed width depending on what you want. Do we have any white space fields? Do we want to trim them? That sort of thing. You can set your field delimiter. You can set a minimum or maximum field count if you want. And you can put an example record in.
Do CS, or is it like Excels, or is it just like CSVs? Is something
I can use any one of these as a delimiter. Most common, if someone comes to us and says, we want you guys to create one for us, we're going to use comma separated file. It's the easiest one to do.
Even without delimiter, like maybe you can delimit Excel file somehow. Is that what, like
an Excel file?
Yeah.
You can delimit it. You just save it as a CSV file. Type CSV,
so
and then it's Yep. Yeah.
Yes, we can just
it's one save in Excel. But so the XLSX format, if you want to try to import that, the system would read that as just one giant field, and everything would error, and it would say, I don't know what you have here. So saving it as a .csv, if you're going to use comment, is very important.
Yeah, we can.
Orphan spaces. Yeah. So if you saw the option here, and I'm saving this, I'm going to create it, but I have this trim white space fields here. So a white space field is exactly that, an orphan field, a blank space in there that you don't notice when you're looking at the file. It can trim from both the front and the back if you'd like.
It's a character that doesn't show.
Correct. So if you imported that without one of these options set, it would show as like a little question mark inside of a diamond within our database. That's to show you there's a space here. Here's the character that we use in Oracle to represent that, and that would show up on your data as well. So we always suggest just trim leading and trailing spaces so that you don't run into. No, you wouldn't get any you don't get middle fields. It's the end fields. But if you save that as a comma separated file, would that then become two different fields?
Basically, we just have to write some sort of catch to check that.
Yeah, I mean,
if it happens that much.
Yeah, I mean, imports are very specific in that once you set up a format, they're expecting that format every single time that you load data in. So it will catch you if you're trying to load a number into an alpha field or vice versa. But if everything passes kind of the smoke test of data, you can load bad data in if you're not careful and you don't review what you're about to put in. Okay, so I've created my format. I've got a couple of things that I can set up here before I get going. I really have to learn that. I should just close this thing. I've got a couple things I'm going to show you guys here before I do anything. So I have a before file rule and an after file rule. What does this mean? Before you import anything, do this. And this can be some kind of SQL script, some kind of syntax here. Before I start the import process, I want this to execute. Good example is that customer who was sending us only active users. Well, how do we know who's inactive? Well, before the file imports, we deactivated everybody in Pinnacle and then only activated the folks that were included in this.
Can that do update SQLs or like?
Yeah. Yeah.
How does can we write that somehow
Mhm.
for you? Or
yeah. So if it's hosted, you guys can write update syntax and stuff in here. You just don't have direct database access to do write stuff. So, but if you know, and you want to write an update thing here, you could certainly do that. So as far as creating a custom import would go, during implementation, if we've discovered that it's something that you guys need as part of your normal business, we write it for you. We give it to you, you guys test it, you guys sign off on it. After implementation is over, you guys are in production, you guys decide that you want something new, a couple of options. If you feel comfortable and you want to write one yourself, certainly can. Or you come back to us. We can certainly help you post-implementation on a separate SOW, small engagement, something like that. So, we're there to help. Discretional, I'm going to yield to Randy on that. Did you hear the question, Randy? Sorry, Dina.
But I guess if it's on premise, like if we're doing it, we can do updates. If you guys are.
So no. So the before file rule or after file rule or saved SQL, which I'll show you tomorrow, that's open for you guys to write what you would like to write. Whether that's a select, whether it's an update, whether it's what will stop you here is if you write an update statement that violates a business logic rule within our database logic. Correct. So it will stop you if you did that here. Doesn't mean that you can't utilize the software to write it. We will not just give you straight PL SQL developer access to the database to go in and write things like that. So if it passes all the business logic, you can write it here. Yep.
We bring up something new. I learn all the time. I try not to give away what I call icebergs. You know, what's this big, turns out to be this big. But the other thing is, you can only know what time you use. And while you can go that face on the shoulder, 2 seconds to get that done. There's no way I can respond. It's got to go through that with the person. So we will be a great part of the respond quickly. I don't think anybody.
Dallas Cowboys. Nice. You gotta hide that in Falcons country, don't you? So you gotta hide that in Falcons country, don't you? Yeah. Yeah.
How easy it is for us to customize based on what you need, how long that and again, we can do this for you. You have a lot better not often some of them have a clue than what they do. You have good resources that not how to do it. So that gives you a little more flexibility. So, you've got both options. Right, and I guess other that's what I wanted to say. Yes.
I just wanted to capture that.
Sorry,
The question was, is it going to cost differently whether it's hosted or on premise? And the answer was it's not where it's hosted, it's who does the work. So if Emory does the work, it's a lot less expensive than if Calero does the work, or less expensive or cost effective or whatever. So.
Yeah, if Emory does it, there's no additional charge. Your license allows you to do anything like that. So we're not going to bill you anything extra for it. Okay, what else?
Good. I'm just sitting because my legs hurt.
So it sounds like, so the before and after file
I've
rules
had a
make
long day.
sense. And then like for a specific field, if we want to check it, can we run SQL and then if it based on the result of the SQL, enter this field differently?
Yes.
Okay.
That would be a before file pre-parse type expression that we run.
Or like on line by line.
So run through and check every single line.
Yeah, so we use pervasive now, and it's like every user we check if it's is it attached on the active billing record or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it is, throw an error. If it's not, do this.
Yep. So you can also stick parsing rules in this section here. So not only am I parsing it by this, but I can also write a select statement before you import this. Select from, make sure there's a relationship, whatever you'd like there. It's going to cost you some system performance to do it that way, but you can
theoretically it's like a one-time.
Yep. Yep. So,
The question was, will it affect users if it's run during the day, basically?
yep. So the answer is yes, but only in the circumstances. We load, 10, 20 gigabyte files of invoices for customers. Does that have a noticeable slowdown for the end users? Sometimes maybe slightly. For 100 or 200 or 5,000 even line file, it will be not even noticeable.
For imports, right now, since they are pervasive, we don't really open them up to everyone. Is this something that we could give Molly access to, and she just uploads a CSV file once it's set up, she can just upload it and then say test run it and get the error message.
Yeah, so we always have a run in test mode only, and if I were going to import one, I would show you that. Let me see if I can find one where it says, but yes, we do have a run in read only mode, basically, which does exactly that. It throws out the errors. It doesn't commit anything to your database, but it tells you, hey, line 17, you got to do this. On line 50, you got a problem here. So you're running it through the logic without actually importing anything.
Is it just a simple upload an Excel to the internet type interface?
Yeah, let me see if I can.
This.
Here's a load file. Let me see if I can do it. Yeah, it's as simple as this. So you load it. You pick the import that you're going to run. So if you had created closets or buildings like we looked at earlier, in this case, I'm going to run account system selection. And here's where you could say, I'm pulling it off of a server from somewhere. Nope, it's local on my desktop. Where is it on your desktop? Browse for your file. Sorry, I didn't mean to open up whatever this is. Where's
cancel at the bottom?
Yeah, there's. Sorry, guys, I'm not a Mac guy. So import mode, commit or report only. This is where we're doing, I want to really run this, or I want to just do a report only. Report errors only, or report everything. So this is just saying, only tell me when I have an error, or give me a report back for everything, even if something's okay. And then allowed actions is depending on the import itself. Another thing that we do is we do import it line by line. So if there's one error on one line in a huge file, the whole file doesn't bomb out. It'll error that record out and move on to the next and keep going. So
is that an option, or is it always? I think depends on the import we run.
It's how it works. So would you want? I mean, I guess give me the business rule why you'd want it to work differently.
Closets, you want to explain it?
Well,
I think what we would do is we would just do report error. Well, what are my little options there other than commit?
It can run in report only mode. So,
yeah, I just think we'd probably end up doing report only, Bueller, report only until we were clean.
Take it, no,
right?
Yeah.
That's and the reason is when when we do closets, it takes a group of potentially hundreds of ports, and in one action, one import action deactivates all the ones we want and restarts all the ones. And right now we don't do pieces and parts of that because we want it all to be clean. And there's some concern about going back and picking up the items that errored out.
Yeah.
If you let all the other ones in, and it also updates all the matching between slot and port and jack.
Okay.
And so if I only update some of that match and not all of it, then I've got potentially worse mismatch.
So let me qualify my statement before. It's not just going to ignore one field in this line. It'll throw the whole line out. So if you have a closet with 50 ports on the same line, it'll throw the whole line out, not load 49 of them and error out one of them.
Right. But if I have, that's the problem.
Okay.
Right. Because if I have 50 items and you take 45, there's a piece of me that goes, hell yeah, I got 45 good records in there.
We wouldn't. Okay. I got 50 lines
but
this way.
Right.
Okay.
But the 5 that are bad are harder to fix.
Understand.
And some people, not me, other hypothetical people would be less motivated to go back and fix the 5.
Yeah.
And so we are an all or nothing shop here.
Sure. Fair enough.
so
90%.
Down to the penny,
Yeah, right.
all 50 records.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. I would just keep doing report until it came back clean.
Yeah.
I think is the way we would manage it.
On this screen here, can you potentially, as part of the import, ask for data here and then have it be used in the import? In these closet imports, we type in, and this again might be just part of how we write it, but for how we wrote the existing closet import, we ask for what's the closet name, because it checks to make sure you said this was the closet, but is that what's in the spreadsheet? You know, so it checks that. We also ask for the work order, like service order number, so that we can tie the history. And maybe, you know, in the future, instead of having it prompt at the beginning, we just say add it as a part of the CSV.
Yeah.
But is it an option here to ask for?
I would do it all in the pre-process checks. Okay. I would do all of it in the pre-process checks. There literally is no limit to that. You can do all kinds of analyzations on that file before it inserts anything. And technologically, what happens when you hit, you know, import here, it goes out to the directory that your file is in, and it pulls it into Pinnacle's code, and then it starts running through all of that.
But can it take input from the user that's like typed in at this stage instead of having it have to be in the CSV?
No, I put it right in the CSV.
Okay. And I think we can work around that. Just what are our tools?
No, it should be. This is just saying, take the file and what's in it, and let's check it and load it. Yeah.
So for this import, does it associate who did the update for that line, for everything that's in there? So
yeah.
I can see that Jason did this import, but I did this other import.
Yeah. So it keeps all of the history here of who imported it. Demo user did all of this, but you can see who imported it, when it was imported, the state. So processed means complete, no errors. Loaded means we loaded something, but you have something to address with it. And you can see the input record, how many errors, what discarded, what was blank, what updated, what deleted. Okay. Sorry guys, I didn't realize another potential customer's name was in there.
Do you have anything to say to wrap up?
For the day, no. I mean, I think this is exactly the kind of session that we want to have tomorrow too. Yeah. Yeah, Dina and I don't come in here with a pre-programmed script that, you know, we kind of run through and want you guys to adhere to. I really enjoy the discussion around this and all of the questions. It really is helpful to help us guide what we're going to talk about. Oh, she's got another one.
Let me stop the recording.
Any other questions?
My question is
okay. So I think it's, yeah, I'd like to see it for 10 minutes today so that I can think about tonight how we're going to drive.
I do actually have another input question.
Sure.
Or might be not really more of a standard, but every month, what's these things called? Location data for calls. It might be part of it. Basically, location data for calls. Call them TextPack and Teltec. But I think KFR services. I'm just spouting out words that maybe you've heard of or.
Yes, we have a standard that does that.
That is something. Okay.
Yeah. Was this the format that you guys wanted to do this in? Is this informative, helpful for you guys? Okay.
Yeah, I don't like
No.
talk back to me. Well, and you started to talk on
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah.